Let me ask you a question. If your employee were completely honest with you today, what would they say? Would they tell you they feel valued, that they trust leadership, that they believe their options matters? Or would they smile during meetings while secretly updating their resume? Here's what I've learned after more than 3 decades in healthcare. Organizations rarely lose their best employees overnight. They lose their trust first. And once trust leaves, talent follows. Today, I'm going to show you why trust, not salary, is becoming the biggest competitive advantage in employee retention.
Welcome to Take Charge with Dr. Chichi.
Welcome to Take Charge with Dr. Chichi, where we help professionals move from burnout to breakthrough and help organizations build workplaces where people thrive. I am Dr. Chichi. After more than 36 years in healthcare, leadership, education, and workplace development, I've learned one simple truth. People stay where they feel safe, not just physically, emotionally, professionally, personally. Today's conversation is for every CEO, executive, manager, HR leader, healthcare administrator, business owner, and supervisor who wants to keep great employees. The goal for today's episode is simple. It is to help leaders recognize the invisible trust killer inside organizations before they become resignation letters. Why this matters to every CEO. So before we talk about trust, let's talk about why this matters. Every resignation costs far more than replacing one employee. You lose knowledge, relationships, productivity, team confidence, patient experience, and customer satisfaction. The organization that will dominate the next decade, I believe, won't simply hire better people. They will become places where great employees choose to stay. Many organizations compete with salaries, others compete with bonuses, some compete with benefits, but the organizations attracting and retaining best people are competing on trust. Trust means employees believe I can speak, I won't be punished. My leader has my back. My work matters. My future matters. So there's some CEO blind spots that I want us to talk about. I just want to tell you that silence is not satisfaction. Employee tell leaders what feels safe. The 4 types of employees are the engaged employee, compliant employees, invisible employees, and disengaged employee. So there's 7 signs trust is disappearing. 7 signs that trust is disappearing. And one is meeting becomes quiet. Nobody disagrees. Nobody volunteers ideas. Silence is not agreement. Silence is fear. Number 2 is employees stop reporting problems, not because problem disappeared, but because they believe nobody listens. Number 3, people only do the minimum. Innovation disappears. Initiative disappears. Ownership disappears. Number 4, good employees become emotionally detached. They still arrive on time, but mentally, they're already gone. I got to that point too. So leaders hear bad news too late, because employees don't feel safe telling the truth. And then number 6, high performers stop mentoring others. They protect themselves instead. And then number 7, resignations suddenly increase. So leadership says, we never saw this coming. Actually, the warning signs were there all along. Let me give you an example. I worked in a job for a long time, almost 29 years. I still arrive on time to work, but mentally I was already gone. I was emotionally detached, didn't care anymore. I could not trust the leadership anymore, and the action was not encouraging. I was burnt out from everything happening at work, no appreciation of employees, no empathy or sympathy from leadership. I had to make the hardest decision of my life to leave a job that I've worked for almost 29 years, dedicated to that job, loved the job initially. But after working at that job for almost 29 years, I had to make that hard decision because joy was not there anymore. I felt sad going to work. I had to tell myself the truth. I had to tell myself the truth. I had to leave. I guess other employees were feeling the same thing too. And almost, or if not more than 90% of the employees in that department left the job. Some transferred to the other departments, and some left just because I guess trust for the management was gone. The employees were overwhelmed and burnt out and felt the leadership couldn't be trusted anymore. So I think it's important that we do a trust audit. Before you try to fix trust, just measure it. One of the biggest mistakes I see leaders make is believing they know exactly what's happening inside their organizations simply because no one is complaining. But silence is not the same as satisfaction. Employees don't always tell leaders the truth. They tell leaders what feels safe to say. So let's talk about some audit questions. Let's talk about it. I know most executives love practical tools. So let me ask you this question. If I walk into your organization today, here are 5 questions I will ask to measure trust. Do employees feel safe disagreeing with leadership? Are mistakes treated as learning opportunities or punishments? Does leadership communicate consistently? Are promotions based on performance or favoritism? Those are the honest questions you ask yourself. Are promotion based on performance or favoritism? Would employees recommend your workplace to a friend? The answers to these questions tell me more than any employee engagement survey. Let's talk about the 4 types of employee. I already talked about it earlier. The engaged employee, they trust leadership. The compliant employee, they do the work, but they're emotionally disconnected. The invisible employee, they're quiet, reliable, never complain, and they're often the people who resign first. And number 4, the disengaged employee, they're still on payroll, already mentally gone. So as an executive, I know we are aware that there is a cost of one resignation. Let's talk about business. When one experienced nurse or employee leaves, you don't lose one employee. Lose years of institutional knowledge. You lose relationship. You lose productivity. You lose team morale, training, investment, mentorship, and patient confidence. Then you spend months and months replacing someone who may leave again. I know executives think in dollars, and that is why I want to remind us of that. Let's talk about the culture test. As an executive, ask yourself, what happens when leadership leaves the room? Do employees keep working, help each other, speak positively, or start complaining. Culture is revealed when leadership isn't watching. So after spending nearly 29 years in one health organization, like I previously said, I learned that people don't stay because every day is easy. They stay because they trust the people they work with. Trust carried us through different seasons. Trust made us resilient. That builds credibility. When there's no trust, things fall apart. So I'm going to give this challenge to the CEOs or the management or leaders. I will respectfully challenge our executive listening. If I interviewed your employee privately, would they describe your culture the same way you would? I'll repeat. If I interviewed your employees privately, would they describe your culture the same way you would? If I could predict the future, the organizations that will thrive over the next decade wouldn't necessarily be the ones paying the highest salary. They will be the organizations where employees trust leadership, feel psychologically safe, and believe they matter. So there are three decisions every CEO must make. And the three decisions every CEO must make will be number one, do you want compliance or commitment? Decision number two, do you want employees who obey or employees who innovate? Decision number three, do you want people to stay because they have to or because they want to? I have some homework for all leaders that are listening or watching. Tomorrow, walk through your organization. Don't inspect. Observe, just observe. Notice who is smiling, who is quiet, who is withdrawn, who is avoiding eye contact, who's always staying late, who's never taking vacations. Leadership starts with observation. Leadership starts with observation. So I just want you to know that employees don't resign from organizations first. They resign from trust. I repeat, employees don't resign from organizations first. They resign from trust. The resignation letter simply arrives later. So my executive challenge for this episode will be this week, I challenge every CEO, manager, HR executive, healthcare administrator listening to ask one employee this question. What's one thing leadership does that makes your work harder? Don't defend yourself. Don't explain. Just listen. That conversation may be the most valuable meeting you have all year. That conversation may be the most valuable meeting you have all year. For my trust leadership framework, the trust leadership framework is trust. T.R.U.S.T. T stands for transparency. R stands for respect. U stands for understanding. S for safety. And T, trust through action. Let me break it down. Transparency. People trust what they can see. Leaders build trust by being open, honest, and clear in their communication. The key principles are communicate honestly, explain the why behind the decision, share information appropriately, admit mistakes, and avoid hidden agendas. So the leadership question that I have under this T is, am I telling my team what they need to know? or only what is convenient to share. The next is R for respect. Every employee deserves dignity. Trust grows when people feel valued regardless of their title, even if it's a cleaner. So the principles are listen without interrupting, treat everyone fairly, value different perspectives, recognize contributions, lead with humility. So the leadership question for this will be, do people feel respected after every interaction with you? You answer that. U for understanding. Seek to understand before expecting to be understood. Great leaders understand people before trying to solve problems. What are the key principles? Practice empathy. Learn employees' strengths. Understand individual motivations and recognize and recognize personal and professional challenges. Ask questions before making assumptions. The leadership question I have for this is, do I truly understand my team's needs, concerns, and aspiration? S for safety. S for safety. People perform at their best when they feel safe. If they're not safe, they're not going to perform. So psychological safety is essential for innovation, engagement, and retention. And the key principles are encourage honest conversations, welcome feedback, allow mistakes to become learning opportunities. Don't make your employee feel bad when they make mistakes, but let it be a learning opportunity for them. Eliminate fear-based leadership, foster inclusion and belonging. So the leadership question I have here is, would my employees feel safe disagreeing with me? Or will you just make sure you get back at them for disagreeing with you? T is for true action. Trust is earned by what leaders do, not what they say. It's what you do and not what you say. You could be saying, oh, you're a valued employee, but your actions will tell the employee that they're not valued. So promises create expectations, actions build credibility. The key principles are follow through consistently, be accountable, model the behavior you expect, keep commitments, and lead by example. The leadership question for this will be, would my actions today increase or decrease trust in my leadership? So this framework has a natural progression. Transparency, leaders communicate openly, respect, people feel valued, understanding, leaders know their people, safety, employees feel secure through safety, employees feel secure enough to contribute. Trust through action. Trust is sustained through consistent behavior. This will be easy to remember. It is practical and works across healthcare, corporate organization, government, education, and nonprofits. I will repeat the framework again. Trust, T.R.U.S.T, the Trust Leadership Framework. Trust for transparency, R for respect, U for understanding, S for safety, and T for trust through action. This progression keeps CEO, HR executives, and healthcare leaders engaged because each section naturally leads to the next. So let's talk about the 5 leadership behaviors that build trust. Tell the truth, even when the news isn't good. Tell the truth. Admit mistakes. Leaders don't lose respect by apologizing, they gain credibility. Listen more than you speak. Yes, you're the boss, but listen more than you speak. Employees remember how leaders made them feel. Not every speech. Not every speech. I do, that I had to ask a question. Am I just a number? So follow through. Promises create trust. Broken promises destroy it. Broken promises destroy it. Promises create trust. So follow through. Care about people beyond productivity. Ask, how are you doing? Not just, did you finish the report? So let's do a culture text here. To talk about culture tests, my question is, what happens when leadership leaves the room? You're with employees and you leave the room. What happens? Do employees help each other? Do they gossip? Do they stop working? Or do they solve problems? Culture isn't what leaders say. Culture is what employees do when leaders aren't watching. So 3 decisions every CEO must make are compliance or commitment, obedience or innovation, retention or constant recruitment. Those are the decisions you have to make. So there's a financial cost when trusts are broken. Broken trust creates higher turnover, recruitment costs, training costs, agency staffing, burnout, lower productivity, poor patient satisfaction, lower customer satisfaction, poor innovation, damaged reputation. Trust is not a soft skill. Trust is a business strategy. You need to know it. You need to know it. I just shared my story. I shared my story. When I went in, I know we had a lot of projects going on. I had a hand surgery and I came back on time. I did the surgery Friday, came back on Monday because I wanted to help. And my leader knew about that. And she walked into my office and she's like, oh, can you go do, not even acknowledging the fact that I have Band-Aid on my hand and wrapped, it was wrapped, my hand was wrapped. Did not even acknowledge that. What she cared was what I needed to go do. And eventually I sat down with her and I asked her, I just feel like a number here. You knew I had surgery and you saw me with a Band-Aid all over my hand. You couldn't even ask me how I was doing. And she said, oh, I just done probe. So trust, show empathy, show empathy. So there are 3 questions CEO should ask. The 3 questions every CEO should ask are, if I resign today, would my employees miss me? Or would they say, oh, I'm glad she's gone? Or would they simply replace me emotionally? Would my employee miss me or simply replace me emotionally? Because they don't care about you because they don't have trust. Do employees tell me the truth or do they only tell you what you think or what you want to hear? So if I secretly become an employee in my own organization, would I stay? So this is reflection time. I want every leader listening or watching today to reflect on one question. When was the last time an employee trusted you enough to tell you something uncomfortable? That answer tells everything. That answer tells everything. So for financial reflection, trust has a measurable return on investment. Organizations with high trust experience, they have lower turnover, lower hiring costs, higher engagement, greater productivity, better customer experience, higher Profitability and building trust is far less expensive than replacing great employees. So this week, schedule one conversation with an employee. Do not discuss performance. Do not discuss productivity. Simply ask, what is one thing leadership could do better? Then just listen. Don't defend. Don't explain. Just listen. That single conversation will change your culture. So if your organization wants to improve employee retention, strengthen leadership, reduce burnout, and build a culture of trust, I would like to partner with your team. Through keynote speaking, leadership workshops, and organizational consulting, I help leaders create workplace where people thrive, not just survive. So remember, people rarely leave organizations because of one bad day. They leave after hundreds of moments that slowly erode trust. Build trust intentionally. Lead with integrity. Care for your people. And you build an organization people don't just work for, they believe in. I am Dr. Chichi. Thank you for joining me on Take Charge with Dr. Chichi. Until next time, take charge of your leadership, because when your people thrive, your organization thrives. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Take Charge with Dr. Chichi is a brand of Sparkling Star Development Strategies LLC. The information provided is for educational purposes only and does not constitute financial, legal, or medical advice. Financial services are offered independently by Dr. Chichi in accordance with applicable licensing and regulatory standards. Thank you for watching.